Hello everyone, it's time for me to take the quiz, Zionist or Nazi. You might have seen people taking this online quiz recently where you have to guess whether something was said by a Zionist or a Nazi, and well, I'm going to do it now. So the site, if you want to do this yourself, is zionist.wtf, and in the bottom right corner you can click the Zionist or Nazi button to do the quiz. Now I think I'll do pretty decent here because while it is pretty difficult to tell the difference between what Zionists and Nazis say a lot of the time, there's nonetheless ways of speaking and such that are sort of particular to one or the other. You know, it's not that one side says things that are any less bad than the other. It's more that they just have their own particular ways of talking that you can sort of look for. I did a lot of research into how Nazis spoke and such about their goals and their propaganda in this video that I made years ago. I think it's almost 4 years ago now, or maybe it is already 4 years. How the USA inspired the Nazis from Manifest Destiny to Lebensraum. So I think I'll do pretty good here, but I mean, I could be wrong. So let's see how I do. Okay, first, this group wanted war and now they have it. There is only one effective measure. Cut them out. This, I'm going to say Zionist. It sounds like something that a Zionist would say about the Gaza genocide. I don't know if Nazis would have said this group wanted war and now they have it. It just sounds like a Zionist to me. I don't know how to explain it. It's not explicit enough for me to be a Nazi, so I'm going to go Zionist. Nope, I'm completely wrong. It's literally a Goebbels quote. Oh man, that's a bad start. That's embarrassing. Okay, next. This group has deserved the catastrophe that has now overtaken them. Their destruction will go hand in hand with the destruction of our enemies. We must hasten the process with cold ruthlessness. This sounds like a Nazi. This sounds like a Nazi talking about the Jews. Yeah. Okay, it's Goebbels again talking about the Jews. The reason why I thought this was a Nazi is because he's talking about this group will now go hand in hand with the destruction of our enemies. And I think that's something that Nazis would say, because the Nazis were trying to genocide more than just one group, while at least right now the Israelis only really want to genocide Palestinians. So it wouldn't really make as much sense in that context. So let's go to the next one. These people must be destroyed. They are no longer human beings. They are animals. This could be either. Could absolutely be either. I'm leaning towards Zionist because I don't think a Nazi would have ever implied that the Jews were ever humans. Nope. I'm wrong. It's another Goebbels quote about Jews. Okay. Man, I'm not doing well here, am I? Region never progressed beyond a certain primitiveness. It has never known anything but chaos because it lacked mankind, the valuable bearer of culture. The genius who systematically planned peaceful reconstruction, who ordered the well-designed exploitation of the immense treasures and fertility of the soil. This country has only known powers of unrestricted despoiling and brutal armament of war. This, to me, sounds like a Nazi talking about Ukraine, like the black soil of Ukraine. Yeah, it was Himmler talking about Eastern Europe. The weak crumble, are slaughtered, and they're erased from history, while the strong, for good or ill, survive. The strong are respected, and alliances are made with the strong, and in the end, peace is made with the strong. I'm pretty sure this was posted on Twitter, on the official Israel Twitter account. Oh no, it was on Netanyahu on Twitter. Okay, but there is a comparison here with a Hitler quote that they give the whole of nature is a mighty struggle between strength and weakness, an eternal victory of the strong over the weak. So very similar. It could go either way if you didn't really know. I've seen the Twitter post before. That's how I knew about it. If I hadn't seen that before, it would have been a wash. I do not admit that a wrong has been done to these people by the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, a more worldly race, to put it that way, has come in and taken their place. This is a Churchill quote, Zionist. Yeah, it's Churchill particularly talking about Palestine. A very well-known, disgusting Churchill genocidal quote. One of the soldiers raped a 16-year-old girl, laughing. They gathered them in something like a cage and put iron wires around them. They gathered all the men, sat them on the ground, and one of the soldiers got the submachine gun and shot them. There were soldiers who took flamethrowers and ran to the villages and burned them. This sounds like a reference to the Deir Yassin massacre, probably from the documentary Tantura. It's from a testimony about the 1948 Nakba made by Zionist soldier Yosef Diamant in an interview with the Israeli channel Hot 8. Yeah, what more is there to say about that? Very much sound like a Nakba story, especially with the laughing. They love to laugh about this stuff. Who said this? We, on our part, are ready to put all these criminals at the disposal of these countries for all I care, even on luxury ships. This could be either. The only reason that I'm suspecting that it's Nazi is because it's on luxury ships. I feel like if this was made, if this was a quote from today, they would have talked about first class on an airplane. Yeah. There you go. That's the only distinguishing factor, the difference in technology. Because this is the way that the Zionists are talking right now about expelling Palestinians from Gaza. The only distinguishing factor here was on the luxury ships part. Because, people don't really travel as much on ships unless it's for like a cruise or something, or they're like a crew, So it would have been about planes if it was about today. What's so horrifying about understanding that the entire group of people is the enemy? I think this is Zionist because I don't know. I think this would have to be Zionist because, the Nazis didn't try to like keep up a liberal facade as the Zionists do because of differing circumstances. The Zionists need international support. They are much smaller and weaker than Nazi Germany was. So they have to put up this facade. So this is like the sort of thing that like a harder right Zionist would say to a liberal Zionist, and the liberal Zionist would then sort of reluctantly agree with. But I could be wrong. No, I'm right. This is from Ayelet Shaked, former Minister of Justice and the Interior of Israel. So next. National Speakers Group will make the ancient soil fertile. That soil was unproductive for others, but for us it was a good soil because we fertilized it with our love. This sounds way more like Nazis because Nazis spoke a lot more about specifically the word soil. Blood and soil and stuff. They were a lot more focused overall on farming. Like, they idealized like the independent smallholding farmer a lot more than the Zionists did, though obviously the Zionists did integrate that sort of colonial propaganda into their propaganda. Also, like National Speakers Group, like National Germanism or something like that. That sounds more like a Nazi turn of phrase. Again, nothing to do with morality between the two, or one being less bad than the other. It's more to do with the way of speech, though I could be wrong. I'm wrong. I'm 100% wrong. This is actually a Herzl quote. National Judaism. Oh my God, I have never seen that phrase before. That's pretty fucking explicit, isn't it? Jesus. This is literally like how the Nazis spoke about Eastern Europe. Yeah. What else is there to say? Got me there. There is one and only one solution, which is to completely destroy members of group. Sounds like a Zionist talking about Gaza. It really sounds like a Zionist talking about Gaza to me. But it could be either. It really could be either. So I'm just going to go Zionist because I feel like this one seems like a trick because you would think it was a Nazi because people don't think about Zionists. I wouldn't, but the average person wouldn't think this was from a Zionist because it's too explicit to be what they usually imagine coming from a Zionist. So I think it's a trick. I think it's a Zionist. Okay, yep. It's from a Zionist, from an interview with Al Jazeera, from Moshe Feiglin, Israeli politician and former deputy speaker for the Israeli Knesset on October 26, 2023. Yep. You see how hard it is to distinguish? Like, I would never have gotten that, except for me thinking that they must have put this in to trick you, because most people do not deservedly think of Zionists as harshly as they do the Nazis when they should. And that's the only real way that I got it, because they're trying to trick people, who don't really know that stuff. Next. There will be no mercy. We had the moral right. We had the duty towards our people to destroy these people that wanted to destroy us. This sounds like a Nazi talking about like the global Jewish conspiracy, but it's so general. It could be either. There's nothing distinguishing this. I'm going to go with Nazi because just a gut feeling, but again, there's nothing meaningfully distinguishing this between Zionists and Nazi speech. Okay. It's from Heinrich Himmler talking about Jews, but it really could have been from Zionists talking about Gaza. Who said this? Those are animals, they have no right to exist. I am not debating the way it will happen, but they need to be exterminated. Just for the invocation of right to exist, I don't think I've seen a Nazi using that phrase. It's a very Israeli turn of phrase, a very Zionist turn of phrase. So I'm going to go with Zionist just because of that, but I could be wrong. Yeah, it's Zionism, just because they use the term right to exist. Yoav Kish, the Minister of Education of Israel, on October 9th, 2023. Every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did. Okay, this one sounds like a trick. They want you to think it's Nazis, but it's going to be like a Zionist who is like bragging about what the Jews did in regards to like the Nakba or something, or like the genocide in Gaza in a positive sense. So I think it's a trick question. I think a Zionist said this because I think if it was a Nazi, they would have hidden the term Jews and put it as like group or national group so that it wasn't so obvious. Yeah, it was an obvious trick question from the Israeli minister May Golan, the Minister of Social Equality and Women's Advancement, on February 21st, 2024. But that's a good little trick question. Most people would think it was Nazi just because of the mention of Jews. But it's actually some like a Jewish Israeli talking about how they think like people will talk in 80 years proudly about how they genocided Gaza. Be triumphant and finish them off, and don't leave anyone behind. Erase the memory of them. Erase their families. Erase them. Their mothers and their children. These animals can no longer live. If you have a member of group neighbor, don't wait, go to his house and shoot him. This, to me, this really sounds like a quote from Smotrich, Bezalel Smotrich. It sounds like him talking about Palestinians. Ezra Yachin, IDF terrorist in October 2023. Oh, this is the veteran of the Deir Sin massacre, who after October 7th, he started like going around and saying that this stuff should happen. I did get the Zionists right, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. The reason why I thought this was like a Zionist is because it said like everyone with a weapon should go and kill them. If you have a neighbor, go to your home and shoot them. These animals can no longer live. Like, it sounds like something just happened that made them think they could start saying this more openly, whereas I think the Nazis wouldn't have waited for that, or they would have already fought this. That's all. That's the only really distinguishing factor. It could have been a Nazi saying it about Jews, though. Next, even 1 million members of group are not worth a fingernail of speaker's group. This could be either of them. I'm going to go with Nazi. I'm going to go with Nazi just because it doesn't sound very modern, I guess. But I could be wrong. Nope. Baruch Goldstein. Oh, man. No, it's a rabbi, Yaakov Perin, who was paying homage to Baruch Goldstein after he did a terrorist attack and that murdered 29 Palestinians and wounded 125 in a mosque. So yeah, got me with that one. Next, this is war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. We will not let up on our mission until the light overcomes the darkness. The good will defeat the extreme evil that threatens us in the world. This, I know, this sounds like a quote. I'm pretty sure this was a Netanyahu quote, but this is such a well-known quote that I feel like probably the Nazis said the same thing, and they're putting this in there to trick you. I'm going to go with Zionist to be safe, but I think it might be a possibility. No, it was the same Netanyahu quote. But it's so well known that like I thought the Nazis must have said something similar. Otherwise, I think it's too obvious if someone really is familiar with Zionist speech. Next. Something like a cage has to be built for them. I know that it sounds terrible. It is really cruel, but there is no choice. There is a wild animal there that has to be locked up in one way or another. Again, because of this is like phrased in a way to make it palatable to liberal Zionists. I don't think the Nazis would have done that because the Nazis did not have these sort of constraints put upon them. There's a quote from the Ryan Beard files where I explain this to him, which I will quote here to show you what I'm speaking about. Doesn't mean that the Zionists are like less morally wrong than Nazis. Just means they operate in a different environment, so they change their speech to make things more palatable to an international audience and even among themselves sometimes. What I said is you have to understand liberal Zionism is not a lesser evil or anything like that. It's rather an adaptation to the circumstances. There were no liberal Nazis because the Nazis had a much larger and stronger country that they believed could achieve its goals regardless of what anyone else thought of them and without needing anyone's help. They also operated in a different time with different standards. Israel, however, is a small country that cannot achieve its goals without copious amounts of help, and they know that. So they are way more concerned with that image. That's why liberal Zionism is a thing, to launder the same sorts of goals in softer sounding ways that also skirt around the fact that people today know more about what colonialism is and are more averse to any open expressions of it. So that's why this rhetoric is softer, and I feel like it's more easy to identify as Zionist, but watch me be wrong. Okay, it's from Benny Morris, the Israeli Zionist historian. So I was right here. The way that he's like, I know it sounds terrible, it's cruel, but there's no other choice. Lamentably, we're forced to do this. That's very much to appeal to liberal Zionism and like the international image of Israel as like, we're not morally wrong. We're not like the Nazis. We do these things out of necessity, not because we're evil like they were, even though what we're doing is functionally the same. So that's just an example of what I said to Ryan Beard in that chat. And that's how I can sort of discern that. Next. I am referring here to the evacuation of the group, the extermination of the group of people. This is one of the things that is easily said, but then they all come along and each one has his decent member of group. This sounds like a Nazi to me, because they explicitly mentioned extermination too openly. The Nazis do not have the constraints that Israel does on them from their international allies, and they need to maintain their international image. So it's less likely for an Israeli to be open about the extermination. And they don't really use the term evacuation. They don't, in regards to Gaza, I don't think they use the term evacuation. I could be wrong. I think they use like resettlement and stuff like that. So let's see. Nazi, Heinrich Himmler. Yeah, the evacuation and extermination, I feel like those terms are too explicit to be used by most Zionists, so this could still be a Zionist because some of them are this explicit. In the part where he was also like, oh, but each one of you knows one decent Jew. I don't think an Israeli would say that. I don't think an Israeli would say, oh, come on, just because you know one good Palestinian doesn't mean we can't get rid of them. I don't even think that Israelis would acknowledge that possibility, honestly, so this is definitely more Nazi sounding to me. It is impossible for a man to become assimilated with people whose blood is different from his own. This sounds like Nazis to me. But I think it's going to be a trick question where you go of Nazi and it's Zionist. I was right. It's from Zeev Jabotinsky, prominent Zionist terrorist who later became like an important member of the Zionist army and government, I believe, as well. He wrote very explicitly about how Zionism is colonialist in a proud way. And he compared what the Zionists were doing in Palestine to American colonialism and such approvingly. Jesus, this is so explicit. A Jew brought up among Germans may assume German custom, German words. He may be wholly imbued with that German fluid, but the nucleus of his spiritual structure will always remain Jewish because his blood, his body, his physical, racial type are Jewish. It is impossible for a man to be assimilated to people whose blood is different from his own. This is like straight up Nazism. Like, this is Nazi race science. Jesus Christ. He's like, it doesn't matter if you were born in Germany, it doesn't matter if you're 100% German in custom, in language, in everything. All that matters is your blood. If you're Jewish, you can never be a real German. This guy did like Nazi propaganda for them. That's unbelievable. And he wrote this in 1904, by the way. This guy was like writing fucking Nazi race science propaganda in 1904 for Zionism. That's crazy. Wow. Got me there. I was fooled. Next, we shall exterminate the group. The group will not be able to get away with their responsibility for date. This day will be avenged. This sounds like a Zionist. I think it's pretty obvious the October 7th reference, but it could be included in a way to like trick you because it might be a Nazi saying something. But when you see date, you're going to think it's about October 7th. Nope. I was completely fucking wrong. It's Hitler talking about the defeat in World War II, blaming the Jews for the defeat in World War II, the famous stab in the back myth. Yeah, I did not see that coming. The makers of this site did a really good job tricking me here. Oh, sorry, the defeat in World War I, not World War II. I was saying World War II. I meant World War I. Okay, next one. This is the last one. All the group will be able to do about it will be to scurry around like drugged roaches in a bottle. All the group will be able to do about it will be to scurry around like drugged roaches in a bottle. This is a hard one. It could be either. Like, the best I can do here is guess. I'm leaning towards Zionist. It's honestly a coin flip. Okay, I got it right. This is Raphael Eitan, general in the IDF terrorist organization in 1983, in a parliamentary committee when he boasted of his triumphs in the West Bank. And he said this about Palestinians. All the Arabs will be able to scurry around like drugged roaches in a bottle. So that one was just total blind luck. So my final score is 16 correct, 6 wrong. I mean, the knowledge of like the context for Nazism, Zionism, the differences between them, differences in their speech definitely help, but some of those really surprised me for sure. Like particularly the Jabotinsky one, holy shit, that is so blatant. That is just Nazism, like almost 20 years before Nazism. That's crazy. So yeah, I don't know if this is randomized or not, but 16-6, it's a pretty good score, I think, considering how indistinguishable some of these are. But I think the fact that they can even get you like 25% of the time, as they did to me, is a testament to the fact that Nazism and Zionism are way, 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 way more alike than any Zionist, any liberal, any Ryan Beard out there, like even, you know, plenty of bleeding heart so-called leftists who for some reason always demand that you see the good in people doing genocide. This is way too close to home than any of them would like to think. And the liberal Zionists, make no mistake, they are just as bad as the Nazis. And as I said in that chat that I showed you, the only reason it's not as obvious is because of different circumstances, not different morals, not different actions, not different goals. Their goals are Nazi-like. The only difference is that the circumstances that they're in are far more limiting than the circumstances that the Nazis were in. So yeah, check out that website. It's Zionism.wtf. When you go to the website, you click in the bottom right corner, you can do the quiz yourself, see if you can do better than me. 16-6, I would have thought I would have done better, honestly. I would have thought I'd only gotten like 1 or 2 wrong. Just goes to show how close Zionists and Nazis are to each other in actual reality, in actual ideology, in actual speech. That even someone like me who knows how to differentiate between their speech and stuff quite well still can't tell a difference quite often. And a lot of times where I got it right, it was just out of context cues. It didn't really have anything to do with their ideology, you know? So yeah, what more is there to say? It's a very good website that illustrates its point very well. And yeah, see if you can do better than me.